All right, it's another video back on the, what in the world? Eddie's actually doing something?
No, this is CGI. I don't actually work.
CGI?
Yeah. I heard the camera turn on and I was like, oh, let me grab some sandpaper.
Yeah, I heard the scuffling happening behind when I first fired the camera up. So yeah, we're working on Val and Steve Morris's Camaro again today, and Eddie and I are gonna tag team it today.
Whoa.
And don't read into that too much. But Eddie has started on parachute stuff because we are really going to try and get to cranking on this list so that we can get it out to powder coat. Hopefully really soon. So Eddie's working on the parachute anchor tube. There's going to be some gussets, so we need to... And... gusset. Does gusset have 1T or 2T? I don't know. Anyways, I know what it means. So we're gonna work on that. I'm gonna work on, I think, dash mounting, possibly tub mounting, because we've also got to work on mounting the rear fuel cell. Lots of stuff, so let's get into it. All right, everybody, today's video is sponsored by Upside, and Upside is a free app that lets you earn money back on daily essentials like gas, dining, groceries, and I've actually been using it for a couple of months now, and it's been pretty awesome. So I'll show you how it works. So we're in Indy right now, headed back to the racetrack after the Indy 800. Honestly, didn't go so well for me, but sometimes that's how it goes. But right now we need some fuel. So you can see my truck's out of gas. Yeah, we won't talk about that. But I'm gonna open the app up here and show you how it works. All right, so we're gonna open up the Upside app. Shows where we're at. Oh, actually, I think this will work right here. So we just pulled into a BP station to look around. That looks like a better deal to me. 12 cents off and only pay $4.01. So I pulled over here just to film this, so I wouldn't be filming and driving. And this looks like a better deal. So we're gonna click on that. We're gonna claim it. And then we're gonna use the directions, which you don't have to use the directions if you know where you're going. Let's use Google Maps. And looks like we need to go up to that stoplight and turn right. So you can earn 3 times more than you can earn from any other cashback product that's available on the market right now with Upside. And Upside users are earning back over $1 million per week. Top Upside earners earn as much as $300 a month. So all you have to do is download the free Upside app, claim an offer for whatever you're buying, use a credit card that you already use, follow the steps in the app, and get paid. And I do it often, and even Eddie does too.
I do.
Surprise, you're on camera.
Yeah.
And it's not an app where you earn like points and stuff like that. It's real cash back. I've accumulated cash several times in my Upside account, and then I just transfer it to my bank account and use it for regular everyday purchases, or I've actually used it to pay down the mortgage on my house a little bit. It's just earning cash back on stuff you already buy. It's great. All right, so now that I'm done buying my 42.38 gallons of diesel fuel, I just go to the app, click I've paid, and then you're done. So I'll get the cash back into my account in a couple of days. So right now in my account, you can see I've got $230.01. I actually need to go ahead and cash that out again. Obviously, that's a nice little chunk of change that I've earned back on purchases that I would have already been making. So like I mentioned, top Upside earners are earning up to $300 a month. To find out how much you can earn back, click the link in the description and use the promo code WINWITHKSR to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first purchase. So when you do this, run your vehicle almost completely out of gas, so you get that 25 cent per gallon bonus on the most amount that you can get. So thanks again to Upside for sponsoring this video. All right, so one of the things we do for drag and drive style builds is we kind of overdo the parachute mounting stuff, because Well, not only is this car going to be super fast, so this is the anchor tube that goes to the back bar there, and this is 1.75 inch, I believe 120 wall, and then this is 1.5 inch, I think also 120 wall, and as you can see, it's got a nice fit. So that when we put a bolt through it, when we put a bolt through it, it's nice and secure. Is that going to stay? Maybe? No. So, to also support the hitch more, because the parachute anchor bar will also have some kind of attachment. Maybe we use the bolt here, but it will also have an attachment for the trailer hitch. And there's been quite a few guys that have had trailer hitch problems on the Dragon drives. So we want to make sure that this gets some triangulation to it, both
you need this
vertically, and then we're also going to, you know, do some gussets on where the bar meets the frame. So yeah, you should polish out wider than that.
Oh yeah.
Because it might even be, like, you can see how short it is. Like I want it to kind of fit behind the bumper there. So it's literally going to be just like almost like a taco gusset type thing. We'll use some tubing there, which we'll show you here in just a little bit once he makes all that. But we're going to get to work. Just going to set up a time lapse and get to cranking. And who knows what all is going to happen in this next little segment here. But we've got a long list to work down through, and Eddie and I are going to get to it. All right, so the first part of welding any new bars in is we need to clean the metal of the mill scale and any surface rust that may have formed. So Eddie gets a little bit of that done, and because there is a bolt going through the parachute anchor bar, we want to make sure that we get that machined right in the center of the tube. So we're actually using the mill. We're going to use a 1/2 inch bolt to hold the parachute tether mount in, and we're thinking that most likely this piece that we're going to make that slides into the tube that Eddie is drilling right now, that is also going to be the lower mount for the parachute pack mount. So you have to mount the parachute packs along with the launchers, and those have to be sturdy enough to support the launchers, because there is a good bit of force there when the parachutes fire out. So we got to make sure all that is nice and sturdy, as well as the anchor point to the car can handle, you know, a whole lot of force, because there is going to be, you know, the possibility of -2 to 3 to maybe even 4 G's. So you've got, let's say this thing ends up weighing 3,000 pounds. 3 times 4, or 3,000 times 4, that is 12,000 pounds of force that is going to be pulled on this back bar, potentially. So we need to make sure that is really, really sturdy to support, you know, being pulled backwards at that force. But we also need to brace it in the load path that it will see when it has a trailer attached to it. So a lot of design considerations, you know, to make sure that we get everything just right. You can see before welding that bar in, Eddie put a really long bolt into the hole that he had just drilled, and then put a level on it to make sure that the bolt, or make sure that that bar is welded in perfectly level. And once he got that tacked, we took the back bumper off, and this is the first time that the back bumper has actually been back off since we fabricated this structure here. So we wanted to go ahead and finish welding all of the joints that were only welded on the front side before. So that's what Eddie's doing now. And you know, first you have to go in and kind of polish on them a little bit to make sure there's no surface rust. And when it comes to the main tubing joints, right up until the point that we weld them, we leave the mill scale on it, and sometimes there's even a little light coat of oil to keep the tubing from rusting, but you can't weld through that. Some people do weld through the mill scale, but I would prefer, and I have always preferred, just to sand it off so that there is no risk of contamination from any of the stuff that may be in the the mill scale itself. So out there on the very end, you'll notice a tab, kind of right where Eddie was welding just a second ago, and that is where there is another bar that is mounted to the back of the bumper itself, and there's some factory bolt holes back there. We made a bar that goes across, and it attaches to all these little different factory tab locations, and then it bolts to that bar right there. So, or to that tab right on the end of the bar there. So the idea is that the back bumper has a really nice support down towards the bottom of it, so as the wind gets a hold of it and stuff, it's not just flopping around. And we are going to try to do some stuff with some under panels to try and tie all of that together, because you can see she's got a pretty big rear bumper on her, and we want to make sure that the wind doesn't get a hold of it. You guys might have seen Steve's video where Clark took his 5th gen Camaro to the mile, and it ended up ripping the back wing off of it. And it looked to me like maybe his wing was just mounted to the trunk. So we're going to make sure that we tie the wing mounts into more than just the trunk, and maybe we've got a different wing than what he had, but we've got a little bit of work to do there, some things to figure out. And now that we've got all of that stuff made, we need to start gusseting that main parachute tether anchor bar. So that's the piece that Eddie just made, and he's welding them in now. And we did notice that, you can see that he's doing them both here at the same time, but for some reason, whether it was the process and how he welded them or the progression of which tube he welded more of first, it actually pulled that tube over a little bit, and it was visibly crooked. So we ended up making an extra pass or Eddie made an extra pass on the welds on the left side, and what that ended up doing was shrinking that gusset just enough that it pulled it back straight. I mean, it really wasn't much, but by the time we got to the back of the tube, it was about 1/8 of an inch, and that extra pass pulled it back in straight. Eddie got work done.
I work. Look at you with your backpack on, ready to leave.
I have to take my kids to gymnastics. It's almost 5 o'clock. I'm only leaving 10 minutes early.
If you ain't staying like 4 hours
8 minutes
late,
early.
you ain't working.
Anyways, looks a little different without the bumper on it. And I think we've decided to gusset here as well, just because in a lot of ways a drag and drive car is kind of built around the parachute mounting and the trailer hitch, because typically they mount to each other. So you can tell with none of the factory stuff back here in the back that we have to create our own situation. We were going to have some tabs here for the hitch support, whatever we do to engineer the hitch. But you can see how just that one bar being there in the middle, like if we were to pull on that, like the hitch is going to be working up and down on that going down the road. If we do a triangulation bracket gusset from up here, that'll be better.
That's right.
It'll be better.
Can I weld now?
No.
Oh, okay.
Where's the other piece of pipe? Does the piece of pipe still fit?
Piece of pipe. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I hope. Because I just welded on this.
Is it still hot?
A little bit. It should fit.
It makes it past the hole. It probably distorted this down here where it won't.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Where it won't go in. I can feel it. Before I could go in and bonk it against this bar.
Yeah.
But now it's snug. But you can see it goes past that by a good amount. This bar will be what the parachute tethers themselves anchor to. We'll make a little anchor mount for it. And then beyond that, it will be some more fabrication, and then we gotta make a hitch mount for it. One way or the other. And then we still have to build the mounts for the parachute packs and mount the wing, and
that's all gonna be after powder coat, right? Like
yeah.
The parachute stuff, mounting the actual.
Yeah. The parachute will probably anchor off of the parachute anchor.
The thingy that comes out, and then the thingy that comes up, and then the thingy that goes across, and then the two
lots
thingies.
of thingies.
I don't know what I'm doing. Kevin says weld, I weld.
Oh boy. Well, we've made some progress, and we'll be back on it tomorrow to make this video even longer. So, back to Eddie working. I know, it's rare.
I know, dude.
It's rare. All right, so we're back on the front of the car now, and you can see that first thing I'm going to do is deburr the inside of the tube that I welded through the frame rail on the last Val and Steve Morris Camaro video. Go back and watch that if you didn't see what we did in that one. But I've made it where the steering shaft passes through the factory frame, and it comes out in a really good spot on the engine side, and we're going to show you that here in just a minute. But the tubing does get distorted a little bit because it's coming through the frame rail. Like there's a plate on the end of where I notched the factory frame rail, and where it's coming through that plate, it's at an angle, and because of that, it actually kind of oblongs that tube just a little bit right at the end. Well, when I have a machined plastic bushing that I need to go into there, any kind of deformation is a problem. So I end up polishing the end of the tube out a little bit and tapping the Delrin bushing in, and once it's tapped in, I come back through with a reamer, and I actually ream the inside hole in the Delrin bushing out to 751 thousandths, so it's 1,000th larger than the steering shaft itself. Now the steering shaft is typically a 3/4 inch piece of chromoly tubing. It's typically going to be a couple thousandths under, so it actually works out to where there's a couple of thousandths of play through that. But you know, with those bushings pressed into there, you can see I'm using the reamer right there. They end up, when I tap the bushings in, and whether or not the end of the tube is perfectly straight, when I ream each end, the hole doesn't quite line up, the inner hole, so when I stick the steering shaft through, I end up having to stick the reamer in and tweak it just a little bit to get the shaft lined up. Now right now it's really tight. You can see I had to bonk it through with a hammer, but that's just going to hold it and make it easier while I fabricate the front steering shaft and the driver's side of the steering shaft. So to mock up the driver's side of it, obviously we need a steering wheel. So we've got an MPI steering wheel and one of the Motion Raceworks really nice quick disconnects. And I go ahead and fully assemble this here, and hindsight looking back, probably shouldn't have, because we're going to make the steering wheel, and there's going to be an extension that comes off, so it gives the driver a larger window to get in and out of the car and not have to worry about the steering shaft being in the way. So did a little mock-up there. Now we're mocking up the dash to see if the steering shaft is going to completely go under the dash, which it looks like it is. That's one nice advantage to moving the driver back in the car a little bit and having the steering shaft enter the driver compartment as low as we made it do it. So I need to finish mounting up the dash. Got a little more trimming to do, as well as some reshaping, and then we're going to get the dash mounted, and then we're going to work on mounting the digital dash, as well as I believe Steve is going to send me the same backup camera that he has in the Boostmaster wagon. So we had a phone call a day or two ago where we went over a bunch of different little things, color that the inside of the body is going to be, color that the firewall forward is going to be, because hopefully before too much longer we should be pulling the body off of this thing, and it makes sense to get the body, inside of the body, painted, you know, while there's no roll cage in the way. So that's part of, you know, building this type of stuff and getting everything set up and making sure that everything works together as intended. And now we're back to Eddie working on the back bars a little bit. And like I mentioned in the last time lapse, this bar got pulled a little bit crooked when these gussets were welded on. And if you guys have ever welded anything, you know that stuff moves when you weld it. It's not like it's that uncommon for stuff to move when you weld it, especially when you're welding a large angle, like I say a gusset or something like that. When you weld that inside corner, you put the filler rod into there, and then as that metal cools off, it shrinks and it tries to pull that metal around. So, you know, that's just part of doing these things, and you have to just kind of plan for that when you're building stuff. It's also common for headers to do that, and especially stainless steel material really seems to like to pull around. That's why when we are building stainless headers, we make sure that we get really good fitment between all of the header tubes, because if you leave any gap at all, when you put the filler rod into there, that gap is going to try and close up, and then the tube that you just fit perfectly with the other header tubes now doesn't line up anymore when it gets to the collector. So I'm sure we'll deal with some more of that as we actually get to building the headers. But today is more about chassis work on the back part of the car, as well as, you know, me working on the steering shaft and getting the steering shaft support mounted on the interior of the car so that we can get that all taken care of and wrapped up before we take the car to powder coat. So Eddie's doing a good job wrapping up the last little bit of welding here on the lower support tabs. That's going to be a tab for where the hitch will have a support tube bolted on the bottom of it, because I have noticed even in like Soccer Mom, when we have the hitch on, there's a little bit of flex in the parachute bar. So since this car has been designed with drag and drive in mind, we tried to address that. So hopefully it works.
I need a longer tungsten.
All right, well that was probably quite a bit of time lapse because Eddie and I have been getting some work done. And Eddie's still working.
I've been getting work done. You haven't. You've been doing YouTuber stuff.
You've done more lately for sure.
Yeah.
So check out all these tubes back here. And like I mentioned earlier, like a lot of, when it comes to the drag and drive stuff, the support of this is extremely important. And to get a little bit extra, we're doing these tabs down here, and I'm not going to touch it because that's what he's welding, and it's probably really hot.
No, it's cool. You can touch it.
I'm not touching it. You're not tricking me. Not today.
I'll touch it. Whoa.
So we had originally bought this cell here and mocked it up to where it was going to fit sideways across the car. And I started doing some looking and did some measuring, and there's room to fit a cell that fits inside and kind of between the frame rails, below the frame rails. And you know what else that would let us do? That would let us put a brace out here, if that's totally captured there.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, and that would help secure that back there even more. So to mock all that up and to measure for that cell, I wanted to put the tubs in it. As you can see, we've kind of fit the tubs a little bit, and obviously they still need some trimming. But got some carbon fiber tubs from Ultra Carbon, and got it where the TRZ anti-roll bar fits through See how that spins there? A little Delrin bushing, and that's going to get a grease fitting put in it, I think. And obviously we've got a lot of trimming to do because the 4-link brackets are actually going to be inside of these bars right here where they attach to the rear end, and then our shock mounts and all that other good stuff. And then having the cell between this lets us do something back here with how we're going to close off the back, kind of the back of the car. Hey Eddie, nobody's watching you weld.
Hey,
nope.
what's this set to?
Nobody at all. 7.
What's 7?
Yeah.
Oh, what's it at now?
The wrong way. It's like 6.
Oh. 9.5?
You want? That's, yeah. There's 9 1/3.
Yeah, I can see now. Oh, she's sparking.
Whoa! You got something messed up.
I got too much stick out.
That was ugly. Rookie.
I'm trying to weld in here with the spacer in it.
You may have to shield it. Make like a little.
The argon is denser, so it, like when you're welding from the top, argon's coming down. But when you're welding from that, you get it.
I get it. I get it. So I also did some mocking up with the steering shaft, and I'm honestly don't remember what all we went through and did because we've been working on this for like the last couple of days. Eddie's kind of been on it pretty solid between helping out the other parts of the shop, and I've been doing stuff that I've been doing, getting parts ordered and all kinds of stuff, picking up my kids from school, and a lot of the math that goes behind one of these builds, like mathing out how big that fuel cell would be, because I measured it out and I can still fit a 17-gallon fuel cell between the frame rails and make it easily removable. And just like how that's going to work out mounted better there. But anyways, there was the idea for our steering shaft, and this isn't welded yet or anything, so this joint right here will get welded. It'll also get welded on this side of the steering shaft, and then where it goes through right here, this will be drilled and bolted so that it can be removed, and then, you know, all of the steering shaft taken out of the car. And then the neat thing about by doing this joint back here, and then when we have the adjustable bracket out here, steering column height will actually be able to be adjusted, and we're gonna use a bushing kind of like that, a plastic bushing, and there won't actually be a cover around the steering shaft. It's actually how we've done a few cars. If we were getting real crazy, we'd do all this in titanium, but we're gonna leave it where it's chromoly for this one. So, got quite a bit done on the thing. Told you guys I was gonna try to bring you a video every week, so maybe it's a little muddy there in the middle with you know, the time lapse and kind of a long time lapse section, but it's kind of like YouTube videos or progress on the car. Got to find that balance and get us to where we are always moving forward, because we want to get this thing wrapped up in body off of it, hopefully by the end of next week. Into next week, Eddie, body off?
Running?
No.
Oh.
No, not running. Body off next week?
Yeah. Sure.
We've got a lot to do. A lot of little nitpicky
mount
stuff.
This, make little tabs and inserts, and
for the front of the tubs and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for this video. Appreciate all you guys watching, subscribing, following along. Leave us a comment down there in the comment section. Let us know you're watching. Leave us a joke. Tell us a joke down in the comment section. Yeah, let's see how that goes. See you guys next time.